You're the hardest worker on your team and somehow the least promoted. That's not a coincidence, it's a trap. You finished 12 tasks today. Answered 40 emails. Put out 3 fires before lunch. And your boss still asked in your one-on-one, "What's your strategy for Q3?" You wanted to scream. All that effort, and none of it seems to register as real leadership. That gap between being constantly busy and being genuinely valuable, it comes down to one distinction. The difference between tactical work and strategic work. Once you understand this clearly, you will never manage your time or your career the same way again. Tactical work is everything that fills your calendar without you choosing it. Status updates nobody reads. Fixing broken spreadsheets at 9 p.m. Chasing people for approvals they keep forgetting. Responding to Slack threads that could have been a shared document. None of it is unimportant, and that's exactly the trap. Every tactical task feels urgent in the moment. It gives you a small dopamine hit when you check it off your list. But here's what nobody explains in your first 5 years of work. Tactical work is maintenance. It keeps the engine running, but it doesn't decide where the car is heading. A project manager who only does tactical work is a coordinator with a fancy title. A product manager who only does tactical work is a ticket writer with a roadmap they didn't actually shape. An engineering lead who only does tactical work is a senior developer who also attends more meetings. You see the pattern, and it's not a good one. Strategic work feels completely different. It doesn't come with a deadline by Friday. Nobody pings you about it on Slack. It's the work that changes outcomes 3 months, 6 months, or a year from now. Deciding which features to kill so the team can actually focus on what matters. Building a relationship with a difficult stakeholder before you desperately need their support. Rethinking your team's entire workflow because you noticed the same bottleneck 3 sprints in a row. When Amazon killed the Fire Phone in 2015, that was a strategic decision. Stop bleeding money on a losing product and redirect those resources toward Alexa and AWS, 2 bets that reshaped the company. Strategic work often feels deeply uncomfortable because the results aren't immediate. You can't point to a completed Jira ticket at the end of the day and say, "Look what I did." But this is precisely the kind of work that gets people promoted, earns trust from leadership, and builds a career that compounds over time. Now here's where things get tricky. Tactical work is extremely visible. Everyone sees you running the stand-up, sending the meeting recap, updating the project tracker. Your name is on everything. Strategic work is often invisible. You spent 2 hours on a Saturday thinking through a market shift and came back with a 1-page memo. To your team, it doesn't look like you did anything productive. But that memo might be the most valuable thing you created all quarter. McKinsey's research on executive effectiveness found that leaders who protect dedicated time for strategic thinking consistently outperform their peers in long-term business outcomes. The uncomfortable reality is that most organizations reward the person who looks busy over the person who's actually moving the needle. So you have to make your strategic work visible on purpose. Name it in your updates. Share your thinking with your manager. Tie every strategic recommendation directly to business outcomes when you present it. If you don't advocate for your own strategic work, nobody else will. Want to know exactly where you stand right now? Try this. Pull up your calendar from last week. Color code every single block. Green for strategic work: anything that shapes direction, prevents future problems, or creates new opportunities. Red for tactical work: anything that maintains current operations or reacts to something already happening. Most people discover their week is about 90% red. And they're genuinely shocked. If you're a senior individual contributor or a people manager and your ratio is worse than 70-30 tactical to strategic, something needs to change. Not because tactical work is beneath you. Because your role demands more than keeping things running smoothly. Leadership didn't hire you to be a caretaker. They hired you to also decide what should be running in the first place. That requires strategic thinking, and strategic thinking requires time you're currently giving away to low-value tasks. Shifting the balance doesn't mean abandoning tactical work overnight. It means becoming intentional about where your hours go. Start by blocking 2 hours every single week specifically for strategic thinking. Put it on your calendar. Protect that time the way you would protect a meeting with your VP. Then look at the tactical tasks consuming your week and ask a hard question: which of these actually require my specific judgment? That weekly status report? Template it. Those recurring approval requests? Build a simple decision framework so your team handles 80% of them without involving you. The project update deck? Rotate ownership across the team. Now invest the time you just freed up. Map your stakeholder landscape before the next reorg catches you off guard. Write a risk assessment on something your team is ignoring. Propose a process change you've been sitting on for 3 months. Senior leaders at companies like Google, Microsoft, and Netflix did not wake up one day as strategic thinkers. They built the muscle over years, and it always started with reclaiming small blocks of time from the tactical chaos. Here's your one action for today. Open your calendar right now and block 90 minutes this week. Label it strategic thinking. No agenda, no slides, no deliverable attached. Just time to step back and ask yourself, what should we be doing differently that nobody is talking about? That's it. One protected block on your calendar. Guard it like your career depends on it, because in a very real way, it does. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. That's a wrap. Thanks for watching. If this gave you one idea you can use today, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.